these, which ones do you think are related most closely to English? I have to add one more.那在这些语言当中，你觉得哪一些跟英文的关系是最亲密的？
法语跟德语。
OK， 所以要法语跟德语。其他的呢？
西班牙语。
西班牙语。OK， 还有别的吗？还有一些你觉得是跟英文的关系是一点都不亲密？Are there any that you think are not close at all to English?
日语。
Which one?
Japanese.
Japanese, 日语. Okay, good, right? And Chinese? Right, both not close. Okay, so why don't we take a look? Why don't we take a look at some of the other ones that are close? Because give you a hint of some of the other ones that are close. So let's watch this video. So this video is, let me share this tab now. 好，我先来分享这个 OK, so this video is how did English evolve? 就是英语是如何演化出来的 right? How did English evolve? So it's a very interesting video. 这是非常有趣的一部影片 and so it's going to take us from the beginning or early history on the British Isles, 就是它会从这个很古老的历史在现在是英国的的领域，不过以前也是另外一些族群住在这个地方，所以我们会看从这个原来大概可以说英国的原住民 right? The people that used to live in England, Scotland, and Ireland, and how the language evolves into the way it is now. 而且这个语言演变成现在的样子。Okay, let's watch. Can you hear the sound? 可以听得到声音吗？
Yes.
Good, good.
I'm going to start with a challenge. I want you to imagine each of these two scenes in as much detail as you can. Scene number 1. They gave us a hearty welcome. Well, who are the people who are giving a hearty welcome? What are they wearing? What are they drinking? Okay, scene 2. They gave us a cordial reception. How are these people standing? What expressions are on their faces? What are they wearing and drinking? Fix these pictures in your mind's eye and then jot down a sentence or two to describe them. We'll come back to them later. Now?
Okay. So we don't have to worry about describing those images. 我们不需要在乎这个花时间在形容这些这些画面。不过它的意思是说，那我们有两个不同的说法。那这些说法当中到底有什么区别呢？ Right. So what is the difference between these two ways of describing a scene? Right. If we wanted to say it in Chinese, we could say 这个第一个大概是热烈的欢迎，那第二个也是一个 更热烈有点不一样，是比较有礼貌的欢迎。所以在英语呢，有这两个不同的说法，那他们为什么给我们不同的印象、不同的画面？Okay, so why do these two ways of saying this in English give us such different pictures?
Now on to our story. In the year 400 CE, the Celts in Britain were ruled by Romans. This had one benefit for the Celts. The Romans protected them from the barbarian Saxon tribes of northern Europe. But then the Roman Empire began to crumble, and the Romans withdrew from Britain. With the Romans gone, the Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and Frisians quickly sailed across the water, did away with the Celts, and formed kingdoms in the British Isles.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so can anybody explain in 400 CE, who was living in Britain?就是在这个400年的时候，就是谁住在英国呢？是英国人吗？Does anyone know?那我可以给大家一个简短的介绍。听过了一个语言叫做，这个语言的名字是什么？听过盖尔语吗？盖尔语吗？听过了吗？ Anyone heard of this?
No.
好，那盖尔语是一个可能有人可以告诉我，如果我漏掉一些消息。So maybe someone can correct me if I leave out some details. 但是我知道有一些人，至少在爱尔兰，有人会讲这个语言。可能在苏格兰也有人会讲这个语言。So I know at least there are people in Ireland that speak this language or part of this language family. And there may be people in Scotland that speak it too. I'm not 100% sure. So this was a language or related to the language or languages that people spoke in the British Isles before the Romans came. 就是罗马帝国把英国当作他的殖民地之前，当地的人是叫做 Celts。那 Celts 讲的语言是至少一个是这个盖尔语或者盖尔语的前身。对，所以呢，你可以，如果我们也看到这个地图的时候， 可以看到 Britannia， 对，这是古代的英国，所以有一些人是 Celts 在这个地区，然后也是一个罗马帝国的殖民地。So there were some Celts living here, and it was also a colony of the Roman Empire. But when the Roman Empire collapsed, what happened? 那罗马帝国这个瓦解的时候，什么事情发生的呢？在这里，在古代的英国。可以看得到 the Romans protected them from the barbarian Saxon tribes， 是说 the Celts, right? Celts 受到罗马人的保护 ，right? 保护他们这个免受北欧野蛮，比如说萨克逊部落 the Saxon tribes
from the barbarian Saxon tribes of Northern Europe.
对北欧的萨克逊部落。
But then the Roman Empire began to crumble.
对罗马帝国开始瓦解，开始崩溃的时候 ，right? But then the Roman Empire began to crumble. So once the Roman Empire began to crumble, could the Romans protect the Celts? 就是罗马帝国瓦解的时候，他们可以继续保护这些 Celts 吗？那罗马人从不列颠撤退 ，they withdrew from Britain， 所以他们可以继续保护不列颠人吗
No.
No, right? They couldn't. So what happens next? 接下来有什么事情发生呢？
Romans withdrew from Britain. With the Romans gone, the
那是 with the Romans gone， 随着罗马人的撤退 ，right？ 随着他们的消失 ，the Germanic tribes 就是日曼部落。
Germanic
So what did the Germanic tribes do?
tribes, the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and Frisians.
所以有这些不同的部落 ，so we have these different tribes， 就是安格鲁人、萨克逊人 （Angles, Saxons）， 还有朱特人 （the Jutes） 和弗里斯兰人 （the Frisians） 迅速渡海 ，right? They quickly crossed the water, sailed across the water， 然后they消灭 ，let's see what they
quickly sailed across the water, did away with the Celts.
Right, they did away with the Celts， 就是消灭这些。Let's see how we say this in Chinese. 凯尔特人 ，OK? So 凯尔特人 is Celts. Celts, 凯尔特人。So the Celts, right? They were, they were almost, maybe not completely wiped out， 不是全部的没有全部的消灭 ，right? They weren't completely wiped out, but they lost a lot of power. 他们失去很多的权利。
And formed kingdoms in the British Isles.
Okay. And so these 日曼的部落 right? These Germanic tribes, they formed kingdoms in the British Isles. 所以在不列颠群岛建立了王国 so they formed kingdoms in the British Isles. So I remember somebody said, 原来有一个人说，这个英语和德语， 是很近 right? I remember hearing someone say that German and English are very close. Can anyone take a guess as to why? 可以猜猜看为什么？为什么觉得这个德语和英语是怎么的近？是这么的近？还记得这些部落的总称吗？ Do you remember what these tribes were called? Germanic tribes. 日曼部落。So what type of language do you think they spoke? 你们觉得他们讲的语言是什么样的语言？
德语。
德语 right? So maybe not actually 德语，可能不是现代的德语，因为这是很久以前 right? This is a long time ago. But it was a language related to German. 但是他们讲的语言跟现代的德语有是相关的 right? 可能可以说是这个现代的德语是这个这个德语的这个古代的德语的后代 right? So you can say this is like the relative, the younger relative of their language, right? 所以我们有这个古代的日曼部落 right? So these ancient Germanic tribes, if they spoke a language related to German, 如果他们讲的语言是跟德语相关的when they come to the British Isles, 他们来到这个不列颠的群岛的时候，他们怎么会影响到这个不列颠群岛的语言呢？你觉得不列颠群岛的语言的或者住在这些群岛的人会开始讲什么样的语言？What type of language would the people in Britain start to speak? Vanessa?
也是德语吗？
对，跟德语相关的一种语言。对，是因为这是以前的 right? This is a long time ago. So the language that they spoke is like the grandfather. 大概可以说是德语和英语的爷爷。Right? You can almost say it's like they have the same grandfather, right? 所以呢，他们在不列颠建立了王国之后，they right? So after they established kingdoms in Britain, then the people in Britain would become influenced by these languages. 他们会开始受到这个德系语言 right? 他们会开始受到德系语言的影响。好 So we can take a look. Right? And their Germanic language, Anglo-Saxon. 他们的日曼语大概是德语和英语的爷爷 right? 德系的语言。And what is that called? 叫做什么？安格鲁萨克逊 Anglo-Saxon 这是他们的语言的名字。So their Germanic language, Anglo-Saxon, 他们的语言 Anglo-Saxon became the common language 成为那个共同语言，成为了不列颠的共同语言 right? It became the common language of Britain. And what do we call this now? What do we now call that that language that they spoke? 我们现在把他们以前讲的语言，我们把它叫做什么？ What do we call it? We call it Old English, 古英语。So now if we take a look here. Oh. Okay.
And formed centuries, these tribes lived in Britain, and their Germanic language, Anglo-Saxon, became the common language, what we call Old English.
Right? 古英语 Old
Although
English.
modern English speakers may think Old English sounds like a different language, if you look and listen closely, you'll find many words that are recognizable.
好，那所以他说 right? So here it says, although modern English speakers may think Old English sounds like a different language, 是虽然现代使用英语的人或许觉得古英语听起来是完全不同的语言。
Though modern English speakers may think Old English sounds like a different language, if you look and listen closely, you'll find many words that are recognizable.
Okay, if you look and listen closely, 如果你仔细的观察和聆听 you'll find many words that are recognizable. 你会找到很多可以认识的单词。
For example, here's what the Lord's Prayer looks like in Old English. At first glance, it may look unfamiliar, but update the spelling a bit and you'll see many common English words.
So this is called the Lord's Prayer. 这是有名的这个基督教徒的一个悼词。Right, so this is a well-known prayer in Christianity. So here they're giving an example. 他们给你们一个例子。这里是这个悼词的古英语，而且会如果你看仔细的看看，因为可能它的拼法会有点不一样。不过你可以看得到，这里是 Father， 这里是 Heaven 天，然后再一次 Heaven， 然后 Forgive 饶恕。Right, so you can see all of these English words that we use now. 可以看得到很多我们现在使用的英语单词，它们都在这个古英语已经有了。
So the centuries passed, with Britons happily speaking Old English. But in the 700s, a series of Viking invasions began, which continued until a treaty split the island in half. On one side were the Saxons, on the other side were the Danes, who spoke a language called Old Norse. As Saxons fell in love with their cute Danish neighbors and marriages blurred the boundaries, Old Norse mixed with Old English, and many Old Norse words like freckle, leg, root, skin, and want are still a part of our language. 300 years later.
OK， 所以呢，在这里有更多的维京人 ，right? More Vikings came and invaded Britain. 有更多的维京人来侵入了不列颠。OK, but these Vikings 这些维京人，他们讲的语言也是德系的语言。Right, so the language that they speak is still a Germanic language. 他们讲的语言跟德语，比如说，这是丹麦语，不过它也是跟德语相关的。So Danish is still related to German. 所以so the languages are pretty similar. 所以这两个语言还是有很多很多类似的地方。But here, does anyone know 1066 is a famous date in history? 历史上这个1066年是一个很有名的年。那有人知道为什么吗？ Does anyone know why? If not, it's okay. 不知道没关系。
In 1066, the Norman conquest brought war again to the British Isles. The Normans.
好，诺曼人 ，the Normans。那诺曼人是谁？ The Normans were Vikings who settled in France. 诺曼人是定居在法国的维京人。So originally they spoke a Germanic language. 他们原来讲的语言是德系的语言。
Were Vikings who had settled in France. They'd abandoned the Viking language and culture in favor of a French lifestyle.
So they had abandoned the Viking language and culture. 他们放弃了维京人的语言和文化 in favor of a French lifestyle. 转而采用法国人的生活方式。So what language did they speak? 所以他们讲了什么语言呢？当然是 What language did they speak? 他们讲的语言是哪一種？
法文。
對，法文 right? So they spoke French. Can anyone see where this is going? 可以看得到这是往什么方向去呢？你觉得这些诺曼人会做什么？好，所以300 years later in 1066， 对，还记得我说了1066呢？
100 years later, in 1066, the Norman conquest brought war again to the British Isles.
So the Norman conquest， 诺曼人的征服，再次给不列颠群岛带来了战争。So the Norman conquest brought war again to the British Isles. So, what did these Normans do? 这些诺曼人决定做了什么？
征战。
对，而且他们想征服什么领域呢？ So where do they want to conquer?
不列颠群岛。
对，不列颠群岛。Right, so they wanted to conquer the British Isles. So in the British Isles, 在不列颠群岛 right? So in the British Isles, first we had, right now we have people that speak Old English. 现在我们有很多讲古英语的人 right? 那现在我们有一些讲法文的人，可能是古法文的。 而且他们想征服这个不列颠。So let's see what happens. 他们会成功了吗 will they succeed in conquering? Let's see.
Normans were Vikings who had settled in France. They'd abandoned the Viking language and culture in favor of a French lifestyle, but they still fought like Vikings. They placed a Norman king on the English throne, and for 3 centuries, French was the language of the British royalty.
Okay, so here it says for 3 centuries. Can anyone tell me what does century mean? Century 是什么意思呢？
世纪。
世纪，很好 right? And so for 3 centuries, what was the language of the British royalty? 这个英国皇室讲了什么语言呢？ French, right? So for 3 centuries, French was the language of the British royalty. 那三个世纪以来，这个英国皇室讲了什么语言？法语 right? So they spoke French.
Society in Britain came to have 2 levels: French-speaking aristocracy and Old English-speaking peasants.
所以讲到这里呢，在英国，在这个时代的英国 ，so in or 这个时代的那个不列颠 ，right? So in Britain at this time, 这个贵族讲了什么语言呢 ？So what language did the aristocrats speak? French, right? So the aristocrats, 贵族 spoke French. And how about 农民? How about the peasants? 普通人
Old English.
Old English, 古英语
Aristocracy and Old English-speaking peasants. The French also brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them.
Okay, so here it says the French also brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them. 所以从这个来看，你可以告诉我这些诺曼人，他们的宗教是哪一个 ？So from this, can you tell me what religion the Normans practiced?
天主教。
天主教 right? Catholicism, 天主教。And so they brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them. 他们带来很多 clergymen 就是应该是是牧师或者神父，我觉得神父也可以 right? I think you can also say that for clergymen.
Who added Latin words to the mix.
那所以罗马天主教 right? So the Roman Catholic Church 罗马天主教他们原来用了什么语言呢 So what language did they use? The French also brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them. 他还是带来了很多罗马天主教的神父，跟他们一起去不列颠 right? So they brought many Roman Catholic clergymen with them who added what kind of words to the mix? 他们加了什么样的单词呢？
拉丁词
right? So Roman Catholic Church 罗马天主教徒的教堂就是原来是罗马 right? So originally it's in Rome. And what language did the Romans speak? 罗马人原来讲了什么语言呢？ Latin, 拉丁语
Added Latin words to the mix. Old English adapted and grew as thousands of words flowed in, many having to do with government, law, and aristocracy. Words like council, marriage, sovereign, govern, damage, and parliament. As the language expanded, English speakers quickly realized what to do if they wanted to sound sophisticated.
好，所以so this part, right, it's talking about how English adopted many words from French or Latin. 这里是谈到这个英语怎么采用了很多来自拉丁语和法文的一些单词呢。所以呢，如果有一些英国人想要听起来很有学问的 ，right? So if there are some people in England who wanted to sound very smart, what would they do? 他们会做了什么 ？They can use words that come from French and Latin. 他们可以用了来自拉丁语和法文的一些单词。OK， 所以呢，从这个你大概可以了解这个英语的大概的历史。So at least from this, you can understand a little bit about the history of English. And why did I want to talk about the history of English? 我为什么想要跟大家谈到这个英语的历史呢？ Right, so we have Old English, and then what influenced Old English before we get to Middle English? Or we can just say Modern English. Say Modern English. What does modern mean? Modern 是什么意思呢？
现代化。
对，现代的，对，现代化，现代的英语。Okay, so then we have right, Old English. And then we also have French. And before, we had Latin. Why do we have Latin? 因为不列颠原来是罗马帝国的殖民地。Right, so at first, Britain was a colony. And then we have the Germanic tribes. And then again, we have Latin. So the reason I wanted to talk about this, 我为什么想要谈到这个，这个是因为我觉得很有用的一个方法。如果你想能够理解，因为你看到英语的时候 ，right? When you're reading English, you might see a lot of words that look unfamiliar. 你或许会看到很多你觉得不熟悉的单词 ，right? And so English can be a confusing language. 就是英语可以或许是一个很复杂的语言。Why? Right? Why is it a confusing language? 因为它受到很多不同语系的影响。Right? Because it was influenced by so many different language families. Right? We have 日曼语言. Right? So we have the Germanic languages. And then we have Latin, 还有拉丁语, right? And then we also have French, 还有法文. So we have so many different languages. 所以呢，我觉得或许今天我们没有太多的时间，所以不过我觉得我们至少可以做可能可以做一个例子。至少一个例子。 OK， so 这里有一个前缀 right? So here's a prefix 前缀 and what does this prefix mean? 这个前缀的意思是什么 ？teeth 牙齿。So can anyone tell me here? 那如果你想用英文说牙医的话，你会怎么说呢？ So how would you say 牙医 in English? You can look it up. 你可以查查看。
Dentist.
So 你觉得这是很像吗？ So does this look similar? Dentist. And okay, so what if I want to say牙线? What if I want to say 牙线? You can look it up. 你可以查查看。
Dental floss.
Dental floss. Okay. And let's see. How about if you want to say, is this how you say it? 假牙. Dentures. Okay. Now what do these words all have in common? 这些单词有什么共同的地方呢？
dent 开头。
dent 开头的 right? So they all start with this dent. And where does dent come from? I believe from Latin. 对，我觉得是从拉丁语。Yep, it's from, yep. So we have dent is from Latin, right? You can see it right here. Dent, Latin. And what does it mean? Tooth. So why did I want to share this today? 所以我为什么想跟大家分享这部影片呢？ Because I think maybe we can also work on learning some of these elements, right? 我们可以花一点的时间学这些因素。Because if you can understand these elements, it can help you a lot with learning new words and understanding words you already know. 我的意思是说，如果你可以学到这些不同的因素呢，这些来自拉丁语，还有来自希腊语的这些因素、这些成分，那学英语的时候，你会发现，你或许会发现学新的单词呢，会变得很轻松，而且你可以了解到为什么你已经知道的单词是有这个意思。Right? Because I think everyone probably knew how to say dentist. 我觉得大部分的人可能已经知道怎么说牙医，怎么说 dentist, right? But now you can recognize. 现在可以认识呢，这个 dentist, 为什么是有这种的形式 right? So maybe now you can recognize why it has this form. Okay, so I think that's it. That's it for today. Luke, I know we're a little bit past 8:50. Do we have any time for them to ask questions, or should we stop here?
Any questions, students? I think that's very useful knowledge. I used to teach this many years ago. Yeah. Okay, if there's no question, then we can stop here. Oh, Henry, please.
Henry, what's your question?
那个我有一个英文，可以帮我翻译一下吗？就是一句文章。
Yeah, go ahead.
一篇文章。
对，
一句还是一篇？
这样。
哦，好，那我们或许可以这个在课之后，你可以跟我联络吗？现在也可以跟你讲。So we can talk. Yeah, we can talk. After class, I'll help you translate. 我们下课之后，我可以帮你翻译一下。
Maybe you can share it in our students group chat because others now see it, they may be interested.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
可以
good.
的。
All right, students,